Hi all, today we're going to be talking about the NSX Tanto, a common pool carbine that is pretty mediocre at best. So the Tanto's unique gimmick is it has a perfect 0 cone of fire on the first shot, and this is quite strong if you know what you're doing. The problem is, in order to gain this trait, the Tanto pays extremely heavily in just about every other section, and in that regard, unless you have god tier aim to make it consistently work with dinking headshots, it's not very good, and even if you do, you can just get better results with another carbine. So, it's a 600 at 143 carbine, which is bad. It's among the lowest damage output primaries in the entire game, and unless you're going for headshots or gaining significant positioning advantages, you will get gunned down. It's just going to happen. You just don't have the damage output to compete with most other weapons. Your velocity is fine at 520 meters a second, your reload speeds are fine at 2.75 long, 2.3 short, you have a fine ammunition pool of 30 rounds, and as I stated, your hip and aim stats are a perfect 0 on the first shot. However, you bloom extremely hard from the hip. You have 0.12 bloom. Comparing this to the NS11C, which has 0.06 bloom, you literally have doubled the bloom of another carbine. And, in addition, even among 143 carbines, the aim bloom is still slightly larger at 0.06 compared to the standard of 0.05. In other words, this gun rapidly loses accuracy if you do not burst it, but if you know what you're doing, you can land consistent headshots thanks to its 0 cone of fire, especially while hip firing. But that time to kill problem will always drag you down unless you have the mechanical skill to chain headshots, in which case, there's a multitude of other carbines that are just better that you'll be able to get better results out of. So in the way of attachments, you have your standard 1 to 3.4x. I would just rock a 1. It's not a very good carbine at range due to its low damage model and it's just terrible DPS to be honest, so I wouldn't slap anything more than a 1 on it. In the barrel, short barrel is your only option here, given that it is primarily a hip-fire carbine, thanks to its 0 cone of fire. Making the bloom slightly better will keep you a little bit accurate for a little bit longer, and despite the vertical recoil penalty, it's a relatively simple fix, just pull down, and the other options here just aren't that good. The flash suppressor's a fine slot filler, the heavy barrel's a trap as always, and is useless on this particular carbine. And while the suppressor's not bad, maximizing the hipfire of the Tanto will suit you much better with a short barrel. In the rail, honestly, all three options here are justifiable in my opinion, and I truly never found one that I wholly preferred over the course of the Axiom. I ended up settling on the angled grip, as, thanks to the first shot recoil reduction, you can largely keep it on target easily and you will not feel the negatives of the short barrel too much. The extended magazine's fine if you just want a couple extra rounds, although it won't do a whole lot for you, and the grip is fine if you just want some better aim-down sights control, but honestly, just pick what you're comfortable with. I didn't find any of these to be stronger than the other, and while I settled on the angled grip, what you take will likely be up to your own preference. Ammo slot is... Here's the thing. Soft point ammo, if you're body shotting, take soft point ammo. Extending that 7-shot kill range is nice, but if you're body shotting, this is probably the worst carbine in the entire game to be body shotting with. So instead, I would recommend taking high velocities. It will extend your 4-shot headshot range, because it will extend your 125 meter, or your 125 damage range. Therefore, you'll have more range at which you can 4-shot headshot, which, given the Tanto's pathetic DPS, will be mandatory to ensure you win gunfights at longer ranges. It's still not a very good carbine. Of course, as per standard, into the live gameplay, because I'm done bitching about the Tanto in the stat screen, I will now bitch about it in live gameplay. The Tanto is easily one of my least favorite axioms, and I'm going to have to do this thing again later. It's a pretty mediocre carbine at best, because ultimately, as I stated, unless you have the sheer mechanical skill to consistently land headshots with it, you could just do better with any other carbine available to your character. Even the NSO carbines, which are mediocre outside of the X75, they're all better than this thing. Hell, I would even argue the Solstice is better for this thing. It's just not a strong carbine because, what it gives up in order to gain the perfect cone of fire that it has is just simply too much. And with how sharp the bloom is, especially when hip firing, even with the short barrel, you will lose accuracy quickly, and ultimately you're going to have to burst it a lot, which is going to cut in your time to kill even further. Wow, I got dropped. Unfortunate time to log in. Anywho, I didn't like this carbine. I will be totally honest. I absolutely did not enjoy my time with it. How long did it even take me to Axiom? 14 hours, so not bad, but it's just not a fun carbine to use. Because, yes, there will be moments where you quad headshot people, and it's damn funny when it happens, because you will drop people. But there will still always be that riveting feeling that you could just be using another carbine that has better output, that will get you more kills in 95% of situations. It's not even a good trainer carbine for learning headshots with, because you're just going to get punished so badly upon, you know, messing up. And, you know what, it's actually a lot of the same problems that the Naginata has. Because, like the Naginata, the Tanto was given away for free. It's in one of the anniversary codes if memory serves. And guess what? It's also really terrible for new players. Because the Mercenary is amazing, the Solstice is at best, but at least it's still decent for a starter. And the Track 5 does have some merits as well as a starter. But if a new player decides to pick up the Tanto, they're just going to have an incredibly bad time, despite it being a free weapon. It's just not a good option, especially for a new player where, on arguably one of the most aim-dependent weapons in the entire game, because this thing demands so much mechanical skill to use, giving this thing to new players is an absolutely baffling decision. Don't get me wrong, I don't think there are any carbines outside of the starters, or like, say, NS weapons that they could give for free to new players in the carbine category, because the 11C isn't great either. But it really was an odd choice to give this one away for free, because, honestly, outside of completing the NSO Carbine Directive, the NSX Weapon Directive, and the Exceptional 2 and Mayhem that the Platinum version has double credit for, there's no reason to pick this weapon up for sustained time. I mean, sure, it might be funny to equip and get a few kills with, but are you really going to be having a good time with it? It's... You can do well with it, don't get me wrong, of course. You can do well with bad weapons if you have the skill to do so. But will you ever truly enjoy using the Tanto over other options? I'd wager not. And you can just get better performance out of a VX6 TAC 7, a Horizon, an X75, a Jaguar, a Lynx, a Bandit, etc. It serves... okay, that's not the right term. It serves a purpose in its unique gimmick, and, you know what, for what it's worth, it is an interesting gimmick. The problem is the gun gives up way too much for it to be a good gimmick to be giving up. And in that regard, it's sad, because I feel bad for any new players that, you know, they claim all their anniversary codes, and they get all these cool free weapons. And they get given shit like the Tanto, and the Naginata, and the Tengu. All of which are some of the most tragic weapons in their class, and easily outshined by their Empire-specific or even starter options. It really was a baffling move to make these weapons free. And, honestly, I can't recommend them. And that's really the recap here. Yes, it is an interesting gimmick, but unfortunately the Tanto just pays way, way too much in other fields for this to actually be worth picking up and using over your other carbines. If you don't have the mechanical skill, you're going to have an absolutely dreadful time with it because of its terrible DPS, and if you do have the mechanical skill, you can do better on another carbine. It's just bad. So, thank you all, and I will see you all again another time. Bye.